Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago. I'm Karen Hosea Phillips. C News is live at noon. Topping the news at this time, in the wake of Hurricane Irma, the government of Trinidad and Tobago has agreed to provide assistance to Antigua and Barbuda by providing a helicopter and crew for the period of a week to directly contribute to the provision of relief and aid for Barbuda. The Office of the Prime Minister this morning issued a statement confirming that government has been communicating with the government of Antigua and Barbuda with respect to the devastation suffered in Barbuda as a result of Hurricane Irma. The OPM says the government has carefully considered the current difficult economic circumstances, and despite these difficulties, because it recognizes the responsibility of helping our CARICOM neighbor in this time of disaster and need, it has agreed to provide this specific assistance. While a state of emergency has been declared in Bermuda following the devastation caused by Hurricane Irma, Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Gaston Brown, confirmed that Barbuda was severely affected in an interview last evening.
I would say that about 95% of the properties would have suffered some level of damage. They would have lost at least a part of their roofs. Some have lost whole roofs. Some properties have been totally demolished. It is absolutely heart-wrenching. I mean, the infrastructure, the utilities infrastructure was damaged. The physical infrastructure was damaged. You'd recognize, too, that the island is literally underwater.
He said that with Jose now looming, evacuation was necessary as he felt the island was barely habitable.
Now potentially by yet another storm, Hurricane Jose. And if that is the case and it's coming our way, then clearly we will have to evacuate the residents of Barbuda. In fact, I'm of the view that as it stands now, that Barbuda is barely habitable.
But other countries in the leewards were affected. France's Interior Minister said Hurricane Irma killed 8 people and left 23 injured on French island territories. And the acting CEO of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management, Colonel Dave William, says this country will offer assistance to Caribbean islands affected by Irma. As he adds, in order for damages to be assessed and treated with, floodwaters must first recede.
The CDMA system will kick in. Once the floodwaters recede, you have the initial damage assessments being done, and then we know precisely what people need and what quantities. And then from that, we are able to access the regional warehouses that have been established. And apart from that, we normally make an appeal to the general public. So you have a private sector, public sector, individual citizens making donations and giving.
And as it relates to Hurricane Jose, the OTPM says while it's not likely that Trinidad and Tobago will be directly affected, but planning mechanisms are still being put in place.
These systems, based on the past records, we of course we have models that tell us this is the track it should take, but nature doesn't necessarily have to deal with models. So yes, we will be looking at Harvey to see which way it goes.
Jose, yes.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, at Jose, which way it goes, and be prepared again to respond.
He said the mentality of the Trinbagonian needs to change with regards to natural disasters.
While a system may be not tracking in our area, the associated bands, the weather bands, extend hundreds of miles.
Yes.
And therefore, we can still feel strong winds and rains.
Which we did yesterday.
And we know what happens
South
when
Trinidad, yes.
So we need to pay attention, yes, and we need to be concerned.
To other news now, Opposition Leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar is weighing in on the recent published newspaper polls on government's performance, saying that society is speaking out. And as planned, the Prime Minister is absent. In a statement, Mrs. Persad-Bissessar said 2 years later, 75% of the nation thinks the government has failed because of runaway crime. She added that 2 years later, 83% of the country knows that Dr. Rowley has chosen to put citizens on the breadline by cutting jobs instead of diversifying the economy. The opposition leader said 2 years later the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago has gone up because Dr. Rowley added 12.5% VAT to thousands of food items, increased gas prices 3 times in 2 years, and raised many other taxes. This is the CNews Live report at noon. Remember, you can keep up to date with all the latest news on our website at ctvtt.com, or you can check out our Facebook and Twitter pages at CNews Live. Workers attached to JSL International protested in front of the company's office on St. Vincent Street yesterday. Representative for the workers from the OWTU, Dexter Castle, said the protest was in relation to outstanding wages for workers from the Ocean Victory rig, which belongs to Diamond Offshore.
He is owing the workers money that is rightfully owed to them, and the company has taken up a position whereby they are not paying the workers their money.
The workers are also frustrated by the recent hiring of foreign workers by the company.
Whereby to make the union aware of upcoming jobs. However, when they come and they get upcoming jobs now, they take in expatriates to do the job and people from other places to do the job. And which that at this point in time, based upon, as I told you already, the downturn in the economy, that is less for us coming into Trinidad. Because if we are employed, the money will be spent right here and help to sustain the economy.
CNews understands an injunction was filed by JSL against the workers. Mr. Castle said, however, the injunction was thrown out yesterday.
Take action in the sense that the company had changed their name and also the filed injunction, as you said, rightfully, yes. However, that injunction was overturned because of the change of name in the company, so the injunction became null and void.
Well, floodwaters in Cedrus on Wednesday have subsided, but the local government representative for the area is still pleading with the Ministry of Works and Transport to continue repairs on the Cedrus Bridge. He says the blockage of the floodgate was the cause of the massive floods. Works on the bridge halted recently following a site visit by Minister Rohan Sinanan, according to Mr. Tiluksing. In a phone interview with CNews, the local government representative said weather conditions are fair today, but expressed concern over the project being stopped.
Damages done to that landslide, and we are calling for urgent work to be completed. There's also on the roadway several areas and on the main road of almost about 3 of the 7 landslides showing additionally signs of damages taking place.
On Wednesday, Trinidad's southwest peninsula was hit by severe weather, with Cedrus suffering heavy rainfall and experienced flooding and land slippages. The Tobago House of Assembly signed a memorandum of agreement with the Water and Sewerage Authority on Tuesday, September 5th. The THA signed the Mount Pleasant Credit Union and the Water and Sewerage Authority to help provide a much-needed sewage treatment system in southwest Tobago. The Mount Pleasant Credit Union will hand over its maturation ponds at Bon Accord to be maintained and expanded by WASA in accordance with the MOA objectives, which include protecting the ecosystem. The agreement was signed at a short ceremony at the office of the Chief Secretary. Well, THA Minority Member Fali Augustine has slammed the government and the Port Authority of Trinidad and Tobago over the Sea Bridge fiasco. Parliament's Joint Select Committee looking into the inter-island ferry service was held in Tobago on Wednesday to hear the concern of stakeholders on the island. Mr. Augustine and Minority Leader Watson Duke embarked on a swim protest from Tobago to Toco last week to highlight the situation with the Sea Bridge. At the JSC hearing, the member for Parla Tuve Speyside called for heads to roll at the Ministry of Works and Transport and the board of the Port Authority.
To fire the board, the entire board. And of course, if I was in charge of the cabinet, I will also fire the minister, because we have seen ministers fired for less. But I will start with the board, and perhaps if it was my decision to make, I'll drop the board in the bokas and ask them to swim, just like we did.
Mr. Augustine said it must not be seen as Tobago or Tobagonians begging for a working boat or a boat that functions well. He also took a jab at the central government as he made reference to cities such as New York and London, where essential transportation services are tied to the economy.
Must see the inter-island transportation services as critical public service, akin to what the subway is in New York, or the tube and the bus service is to London, or even the ZRs to Barbados, or the Chichi buses in Jamaica, or a red band going to Irma. That's how critical inter-island transportation service is.
And head of the Tobago Truckers Association, Horace Amid, has one message for the Minister of Works and Transport: get rid of the Cabo Star. Responding to questions from JSC member Rushton Parry, Mr. Amid said the Cabo Star poses a health risk for truckers.
The boat, because it's definitely not working for us. You can't shower on the boat, no washroom facilities. This will cause people to get sick, because when you need to go to the bathroom, you need to go to the bathroom. After you travel whole night, and then you go and pick up your load to hustle back there for 12 o'clock. You will take a shower this afternoon before you leave home, and then you wouldn't be able to shower until tomorrow night when you get back home.
And now for the weather this afternoon and tonight. Trinidad, Tobago and the remainder of the Lesser Antilles should see intermittent to occasionally cloudy periods with light to moderate showers will interrupt sunny conditions. There is the medium chance of the heavy shower and thunder shower occurring in a few areas. There is a small chance that cloudy conditions with showers and thunder showers will persist into the night. Gusty winds, street and/or flash flooding can be expected in the event of heavy showers and thunder showers. Seas are expected to be slight to normal. Waves should be 1 meter to 1.5 meters and up to 2 meters in open waters and near calm in sheltered areas. Health and safety was the focus at the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce during a conference with the theme Increasing Productivity Through Health and Safety. Discussing the sub-theme Fatigue and Stress Management, Dr. Ishvan Ramcharita compared fatigue to drunkenness.
By the time you have not slept for 21 hours, your level of cognitive function is equivalent to someone who is legally drunk in terms of driving. So if we treat alcohol and drugs in that manner, why do we treat fatigue any differently?
He added another way employers can address stress management is looking at and dealing with manpower at the workplace.
If you have X amount of tasks to be completed, you want to make sure you have enough employees assigned to those tasks so that you don't have people overworking themselves and going beyond.
The Guyana Amazon Warriors will play the Trinbago Knight Riders tonight for a place in Saturday's Caribbean Premier League final. This after the Guyanese franchise won their eliminator against defending champions, the Jamaica Tallawahs, at the Brian Lara Stadium in Tarouba. Jamaica batted first and posted 168 for 8, led by captain Kumar Sangakkara's 57 and the solid 34 at the top of the innings by Lendell Simmons. The Jamaicans may have felt they could have got more, but Rashid Khan would claim a hat-trick to peg them back after an ominous start. It may have been a match-winning turn as Luke Ronchi would blast 70, while the typically explosive Chadwick Walton hit 39, as the Warriors would successfully chase 169 for the loss of 5 wickets. They completed the chase with 2 overs and a ball to spare. And the news just keeps getting better for the West Indian players who are riding the crest of a wave following their Leeds triumph. Now Yorkshire have signed West Indies Test batsman Craig Brathwaite for the final 2 games of the championship season. The 24-year-old opener scored a century and 95 at Headingley to help his side win the second Test against England last week. He is set to play in the final test at Lord's, which began today, before replacing Australian Sean Marsh. His current form and experience at the highest level made him appealing to Yorkshire, who will use the Barbadian youngster in their final county championship matches against Warwickshire and Essex. He has an average of 37 in 39 tests since making his debut against Pakistan in 2011. The Secondary Schools Football League will kick off on Friday at the Atto Bowden Stadium with a double header. And this year, there's been some improvements to the league on and off the field. Kent Fuentes has the details.
This year's league kickoff will see Carpachima East Secondary versus Fatima, followed by a matchup between the league champs Shiva Boys and the Big Four winners Naparima College. With this in mind, the president of the league, William Wallace, says he expects competition to be fierce.
We expect some great levels of excitement. I know this year players are really looking forward to this season. There is this thing about titles going to South, so that the North teams are very much saying that this year they have to get the title up North. So I expect a very competitive season.
Off the field, the league has improved its coaching education while also signing an agreement with the TTFA to develop youth football. The league has also taken the welfare of its players to a different level.
In addition to that, another major development this year is the training of first responders. Last year it was, I think, in Jamaica, a player died on the field of play. What we have done, we have gone ahead and we have decided to train 100 first responders. So each team, it is mandatory that each team has one of those persons attached to the team so they can respond to emergencies.
Sportsmax will once again broadcast the games, with the girls interclub final to be broadcast live.
Now, throughout the season, Sportsmax will air some 21 matches live across the Premiership and Intercol competitions. I remember at last year's launch, President Creed had actually asked us to show the Girls League. I'm happy to announce, as a woman in sports, very happy that this year, Sportsmax will actually air the Intercol Girls Final live.
Sportsmax will also present 2 students with the opportunity to become student journalists for their respective schools on match day. Kent Fuentes, C Sports.
Well, that's a wrap for sport.
Well,
We end our C News report at noon. I'm Karen Kosier-Phillip. Remember, for up-to-date and breaking news throughout the day, you can visit the C News website at ctvtt.com. Do have a good afternoon.